It started with a strange smell, but when she tore down the wall, what she found wasn't just a body. It was a buried truth she was never meant to remember. And what came next will haunt you. Title: The Rotting Smell Behind the Wall. It began with a smell. Faint at first, barely noticeable, like something damp left too long in a clothes box. But each day, it grew stronger. Pungent, rotten, clinging to the curtains, settling in the floorboards. Mrs. Anon could not stand it anymore. She had scrubbed every surface, cleaned the drains, emptied the refrigerator. Nothing helped. The stench made her gag in the mornings. It lingered on her clothes when she stepped outside. Her neighbors started asking questions. Some joked, others warned. It seemed to come from the living room wall, the one behind her old wooden cabinet. She moved the cabinet. Dust billowed up, making her cough. The smell hit her like a punch. So strong, so foul. Her eyes watered. She pressed her ear against the wall. Silence. But the smell, it was alive. She called a handyman. He refused. Too busy, he said. But his eyes betrayed fear. Left with no choice, she took a hammer from the shed. Her hands trembled, but she struck the wall. The first crack echoed in the room. Plaster crumbled. The smell poured out like a wave. She covered her nose, fought the urge to vomit. She kept hitting, deeper, harder, until the drywall broke through. Something was inside, wrapped in a decaying blanket. A shape, human, still. She froze, heart pounding, her breath caught in her throat. A hand, darkened with rot, fingers curled inwards, nails black. She stumbled back. The hammer fell. The room spun. Who was it? How'd it get there? And why? Why was it in her wall? She could not look away. The smell was unbearable now. It filled her lungs, coated her tongue, made her feel sick in her soul. Her mind raced. Was it a stranger? A victim? A warning? She backed into the hallway, shaking, sweating. Her fingers slipped along the wall as she reached for her phone. No signal. She stared at the screen. The bars were gone, dead, just like the thing inside the wall. She tried to speak. No words came out, only shallow breaths. Suddenly, a knock, soft, slow, at the front door. She turned, frozen in place. Who would come now? She had told no one. Another knock, heavier this time, followed by silence. She crept toward the door, each step unsteady. The knob felt cold in her hand. She opened it just a crack. A man stood there, tall, wearing a city maintenance uniform. But his face was wrong. Too pale, too still, eyes like glass. "I am here to inspect the smell," he said. Her throat tightened. She had never called anyone. No complaints had been filed. "How did you know?" she asked, voice barely audible. He smiled. Only his lips moved, not his eyes. "The house remembers," he said, then stepped forward, uninvited. She stumbled back. The door creaked wide open. The man walked inside, drawn toward the broken wall. He stopped before the hole, looked in, nodded slowly. "Still here," he whispered. Still waiting. She felt the air grow colder, like something old had awakened. Something buried, something angry. She could barely breathe. The man stood motionless, staring into the darkness inside the wall. His presence felt wrong. Too calm, too quiet. She took a step back. The floor creaked beneath her heel. His head turned sharply toward her, eyes unblinking, smile unchanged. "There's more," he said softly. "Beneath." "Beneath what?" she whispered. Her voice cracked. He pointed downward, to the floor, right below the hole in the wall. She shook her head. "No, there is nothing there. Just concrete." His gaze darkened. There was concrete. Before they buried him. A chill ran up her spine. She looked toward the wall again. The hand. It had shifted, just slightly, but it had moved. She blinked hard, stared again. The fingers were now curled tighter, gripping the torn edge of the blanket. Her knees went weak. She backed toward the kitchen. Needed a weapon. Anything. Behind her, she heard it. A tearing sound. Wet. Slow. Like old fabric soaked in filth being pulled apart. She turned just enough to see. The man was kneeling, hands pressed flat to the floor, murmuring something, a low chant, in a language she could not understand. Then, the floor cracked. A thin line split the tiles. Right beneath him, the air smelled worse now, like blood, and ash, and something ancient. She wanted to run, but her legs refused. She was rooted, watching in horror, as the crack widened, as shadows leaked from it like smoke. The man looked up, his eyes now black. "No more hiding," he said. "They are ready to return." The shadows coiled around his legs, slithering, pulsing, alive. They crawled outward, reaching across the floor, like fingers searching for skin. She stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. The crash did nothing. The man did not flinch. He lowered his hands into the crack, as if offering something, or summoning. The hole in the wall groaned. The plaster warped. The corpse, it moved again. Its head turned. A slow, unnatural twist. I still sealed shut, but the jaw backslash. It began to open. No sound, just a dry creak, like bones grinding together. She screamed, but the sound caught in her throat. Trapped, helpless. The man whispered. They buried him alive, then paused, smiling. He remembers the voices. The corpse's mouth was now wide. Darkness spilled out of it. Not just shadow, a presence. Cold, heavy. Whispers filled the room. Not hers, not his. Dozens of voices. Crying, begging, accusing. The lights flickered. Every bulb hummed, buzzed, exploded. She dropped to the floor, hands over her ears. Eyes shut tight, but she could still hear them, feel them. The shadows touched her ankle, cold like ice water. It slid upward, wrapping her leg, pulling. She opened her eyes. The man was gone. Only the corpse remained, and the crack in the floor, wide now, a void. She was being dragged toward it, inch by inch, by something she could not see, only feel. The voices grew louder, screeching, weeping, calling her name. They knew her name. Her heart pounded so hard. It drowned out the screams. The pull on her leg tightened, unrelenting, hungry. She clawed at the floorboards. Splinters tore into her palms. Her fingernails bent back. She did not stop. The edge of the crack loomed closer. Darkness swirled inside it, deeper than the earth, deeper than death. Her body scraped across the broken tiles. Blood mixed with dust. The whispers shifted. Now they chanted, low, rhythmic, her name over and over, like a curse. Unknown, unknown, unknown. She gasped. No. Her voice cracked open the silence. For just a second, a photo frame fell from the wall, shattered beside her. Inside, a picture of her mother, smiling. Her fingers found the jagged glass. She gripped it tight. Pain shot through her hand, but the blood made her feel real again. She swung the shard backward, into the shadows. Again and again, a high-pitched shriek erupted, like 1,000 voices howling at once. The pull loosened. Just for a moment, she kicked free, crawled toward the hallway, legs numb, vision blurring. Behind her, the crack pulsed like a heartbeat. The corpse in the wall began to rise, bones creaking, lips twitching. It turned its head fully now, face tilted toward her, mouth still open. From within it, a second face began to emerge. Not rotting, not old, fresh, young. It looked like her. She froze. The air thickened. Her lungs refused to fill. That face, it was hers. Pale, eyes closed, lips parted as if mid-scream. It pushed slowly out of the corpse's mouth, like a reflection birthing itself from rot. Skin smooth, but lifeless. The whispers shifted again, lower now, reverent, as though worshipping what was emerging. Her double's eyes fluttered open, empty, glass-like, locked onto her. She scrambled backward. Her limbs trembled. She could not feel her feet, could not feel time. The walls around her rippled. Paint peeled like old skin. Family photos melted into the plaster. Every memory devoured. Her voice cracked. Who are you? The answer came not in words, but in a wave of grief, regret, fear, Visions flooded her mind. Not hers. Someone else's. A child crying in the dark. Pounding on a wall. Screaming for help. Buried. Alive. She clutched her head. Tears burned her eyes. The voices pierced her skull. One rose above the others. A child's voice. Soft. Close. You let them do it. She looked up. The girl, her, was fully out now. Standing in the center of the room. Unblinking. Silent. But behind her, the corpse still moved. Twisting. Unfolding like something reborn. Its limbs cracked backward. Its spine stretched. Mouth wide open. And now smiling. The girl pointed at her. Her own voice echoed from the double's mouth. It is time to remember. The room pulsed with silence. A heavy, suffocating stillness. As if the house itself held its breath. She stared at the girl. At herself. So still. So hollow. Remember what? Her voice barely escaped. Broken. Dry. The girl stepped forward. Bare feet gliding across bloody tiles. Each footfall left no sound. Only cold. You were here, the girl said. Eyes locked on hers. You watched. A sharp ringing filled her ears. Images surged again. Unstoppable. Unforgiving. A child. Trapped in a small room. Crying behind a wall. Calling a name. Her name. Unknown. No. She shook her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She had no sister. No memory of this. No knowledge. You forgot, the girl whispered. You chose to forget. The crack in the floor yawned wider. The shadows roared like fire. But cold. So cold. The twisted corpse began to rise. Spine bending in impossible ways. Its jaw stretched open. So wide. The sound of bone tearing filled the air. It stood behind the girl now. Like a puppet master. Or a shell she had crawled out of. I begged you, the girl said. Her voice broke. Not angry now, but full of sorrow. You were on the other side of the wall. I screamed until my throat bled. Anong fell to her knees. The truth cracked through her like thunder. The memories had been buried, but not erased. The game they played as children. Hide and seek. The sealed crawl space. The silence afterward. The fear. Her father's cold voice. Do not speak of it. The wall they patched. The story they invented. A lie. To keep living. She sobbed. Mouth open, but no sound came out. The girl, her shadow, knelt before her. Reached out. Touched her cheek with icy fingers. It is too late now. The house began to shake. Paint cracked. Tiles shattered. Every clock spun wildly. The shadows surged forward, reaching for them both, wrapping them in memory. And guilt. The shadows wrapped tighter. Around her wrists. Her chest. Her throat. They did not choke. They remembered. Every heartbeat now echoed with a forgotten scream. Every breath trembled with the weight of silence. The girl leaned closer, forehead touching hers, their skin nearly the same. One warm, one cold. You left me there, the girl whispered, alone, afraid, in the dark. The walls began to bleed, thick black tears, seeping from cracks that had not been there before. The corpse behind the girl began to laugh. Not with sound, with motion. Its chest shuddered, its shoulders convulsed, as if delighting in the pain. You let him seal it, the girl said. You saw the bricks. You saw the hammer. And you said nothing. No, Anon cried out. I was just a child. So was I. The girl answered. Thunder shook the house. Lights burst in sparks. The floor cracked open beneath them. Below, a pit, endless, filled with broken toys, torn dolls, and small bones. The shadows pulled harder, dragging her toward the edge. Her nails scraped the floor. Her breath came in sobs. The girl did not move. She only watched, calm, waiting. Anon reached out, grabbed the girl's hand. Forgive me, she gasped. I forgot because it hurt. I forgot because it destroyed me too. The girl blinked. Once. Then, she smiled. Not soft, not kind, but final. Cold. You do not get to forget, she said. Not anymore. And let go. Anon screamed as the hand slipped from hers. The shadows seized her completely, dragged her toward the pit. Her legs dangled over the edge. Below, nothing, not even darkness, just absence. She thrashed, clawed, begged, but the floor offered no grip. It crumbled like ash beneath her fingers. The girl stood above her, face expressionless now. No hatred, no sorrow, only judgment. Behind the girl, the corpse had split open, its rib cage torn wide, exposing a hollow cavity. Inside, tiny handprints stained the bone. The air shrieked, a wind that howled not through windows, but through time, through memory. Anong's body began to sink. First her feet, then her waist. She looked up, eyes pleading. I will tell the truth. I will face it. Just let me go back. The shadows hesitated. The pit trembled. The girl leaned forward, her cold hand touching Anong's forehead. Truth is not spoken, she said. It is felt. And with those words, the pit swallowed her. But not into death, into remembrance. Anong's scream echoed, not from her mouth, but from the walls. From every crack, every shadow, every silence she had once ignored. Then, stillness. The corpse collapsed. The floor sealed. The house exhaled. The girl stood alone in the broken room. Her eyes closed. Her head tilted to the side. Listening for the next voice. That would try to forget. The house stood silent. Too silent. Not peaceful, but hollow, as if it had swallowed something whole. Dust floated in the air, glittering in the fractured light that poured through broken windows. The girl remained motionless, hands at her sides, eyes shut, but her lips moved, whispering, soft syllables lost in the stillness. Beneath her, the floor groaned, a heartbeat, slow, heavy, deep below. Then, footsteps from the hallway, soft, measured, coming closer. She turned, her head slow, unblinking. A figure emerged, a woman, dressed in gray, face blurred by shadow. She carried something in her hands, wrapped in old cloth. Small. She placed it on the floor, unwrapped it carefully. A child's shoe, cracked with age, stained with something dark. The girl stepped forward, looked down at it, and for the first time, her expression changed. Pain, real, raw, like a wound being touched. The woman in gray spoke, her voice like wind through leaves. She was not the only one. The girl's breath caught. The house creaked in reply. The walls seemed to lean in. They buried others too. The woman said, "You open the door." The girl looked up, eyes wide now. "No," she whispered. I only wanted her to remember. The woman shook her head. She remembered. But remembrance does not seal what was broken. It only wakes what was hidden. And then, from beneath the floorboards, voices rose. Not one, not two, dozens. Children, crying, calling, begging. The house shuddered. The lights flickered again. The shadows returned. Faster, angrier, starving. And in the center of it all, the girl whispered to herself, "What have I done?" The shadows surged upward, coiling around the walls, seeping through cracks like black veins. The house trembled beneath their weight. The girl stumbled back, eyes wide with dread. The whispers were no longer familiar, no longer her own. They were older, hungrier, voices that had waited far too long. The woman in gray remained still, unshaken, watching. "They have awakened," she said, "because you pulled back the veil." "I only wanted the truth," the girl cried. Tears streaked down her pale cheeks. "I did not mean to open them." The floor beneath the shoe cracked. Thin fractures spidered outward, from the center of the house, to every room, every wall. The cries from below turned to wails. Children and something else, deeper, grotesque, gnawing. The walls began to bleed again, not with memory, but with something worse, with presence. From the hallway, doors swung open, one by one, slamming against the walls. Something was coming, not fast, but steady, deliberate. The air thickened. Time slowed. The shadows pressed against the windows from inside. The girl turned to run, but the woman's voice stopped her. "You cannot flee what you called," she said. "You must stand in it." The girl collapsed her knees, hands over her ears. The screams were inside her now. "Make it stop," she sobbed. "Please make it stop." But the voices did not stop. They multiplied. They poured through her, filled her chest, crushed her thoughts. And then, from the shattered corpse near the wall, a second hand rose. Small, decayed, childlike. It pointed toward the attic door. Slowly, accusing, demanding. The girl looked up, breath ragged, eyes bloodshot. She knew what waited there. She had buried herself. Long ago, long before her body died. The attic, the first hiding place, the first silence, the beginning of it all. The attic door creaked, not opened by hands, but by memory, by guilt, by rot. It unfolded downward, slow as breath. Dust poured like ash into the hallway. The shadows recoiled, not in fear, but in reverence, as if they knew this was sacred ground. The girl rose to her feet, unsteady, shaking, but drawn upward by something older than her pain. The woman in gray stepped aside. "You must climb alone." The girl nodded, though her knees buckled with every step. The ladder groaned under her weight, each rung colder than the last. The air changed at the top, thicker, heavier, like water pressing against a closed door. She pushed the attic hatch. It gave way with a gasp, like the house was exhaling a truth. It had held too long. Inside, darkness, but not empty, never empty. Shapes lingered in the corners, not fully seen, but felt. The walls were lined with drawings, crude, childlike, scratched in charcoal and blood. A house, a wall, a girl with no face. In the center, a small wooden chair, and on it, a doll, old, stuffed with straw, its mouth sewn shut with black thread. The girl stepped closer, heart pounding, each beat echoing in her ears, like footsteps behind her. She reached out, fingers trembling. The doll turned its head, only slightly, only once, but enough. The shadows in the attic stirred, not with violence, but with hunger. The girl whispered, "This is where it began." And behind her, from the attic walls, a dozen tiny voices spoke in unison. "This is where you left us." The girl froze. Her breath hitched. Her hands dropped to her sides. The voices echoed, gentle now, but sharp as glass beneath bare feet. "This is where you left us. This is where we waited. This is where we died." Tears blurred her vision. The drawings on the walls bled into one another. The doll's button eyes shimmered with something wet. "I did not know," she whispered. "I did not remember." The shadows leaned in, surrounding her, not to smother, but to show. Visions poured into her mind. Children locked away, secrets buried under floorboards. Laughter turned to screams, and silence, always silence, pressed into every corner. She sank to her knees, arms wrapped around the doll, held it tight, as if holding every forgotten soul. "I am sorry," she cried. Her voice cracked open the air. "I remember now, and I will never forget again." The attic shivered. The drawings flickered, then softened, as if released. The shadows receded. The whispers faded. And, one by one, the unseen presences stepped back into rest. The doll's mouth unstitched itself, thread by thread, until it breathed. "Thank you," it said, in the voice of 100 lost children. The house exhaled, its weight lifted, for the first time in decades. The silence was not haunted, but whole. The girl stood, different now, not just a shadow, but a keeper of memory. She turned toward the hatch. Light spilled in from below, warm, soft, forgiving. She descended, step by step, leaving the attic behind, but never forgetting what had lived there, or who. Outside, the air smelled clean. The sky was pale with dawn, and as she stepped onto the grass, barefoot, eyes open, she knew the truth. The dead do not seek vengeance. They seek to be seen, to be known, to be remembered.